The Lenovo Yoga 9i is their premium consumer laptop, and it now features the Intel Core Ultra 7 processor. But is it worth the premium over the more affordable Yoga 7i models? Stay tuned and we'll find out. This is my new Yoga 9i. As always, I'll share what I like, what I don't like, and make my final recommendation at the end, so stick around. Lenovo makes tons of different laptops and it can be quite confusing. The Yoga is their premium consumer line. They have metal bodies, 360 hinges, touch screens, and are great in both laptop mode and tablet mode. Depending on the model, the 9i and the 7i both come with pens. I upgrade to the 9i over my 2022 version of the Yoga 7i, so I'll be able to give you my thoughts on if the upgrade was worth it. I've been using the laptop for quite a while now. Let me tell you what I think is great about it. Right off the bat, the screen is amazing. My unit has the 2.8K OLED screen at 120 Hz. There is a 4K model as well, but that one goes down to 60 Hz. So I think that the 2.8K version with the 120 Hz refresh rate is the best one for most people. But keep in mind that by default, it is set to 60 Hz, so you have to go into the Windows settings to enable the 120 Hz. It's bright, it's vivid, and yet in the dark, it's subtle and very comfortable on the eye. Lenovo has a quick toggle for the eye care mode, which adds more of an amber tint, which is great for nighttime use. The build quality is fantastic. It feels light, it feels sturdy, and the rounded edges are a nice touch. The edges are also finished in chrome, which might make them a little bit more durable than the 7i model. I was using my previous 7i in the tent mode a lot when I was on a trip. I had it on the stand beside my bed in the hotel room, and I noticed that after a few weeks, I did see some slight scratches around the edges. I think the 9i having that chrome edge has been done for a reason, but ideally you can put a sheet of paper under it, and that way you're not gonna have to worry about the surface being scratched. It is very sleek and stands out next to other laptops. The speakers are really something. It has the speakers actually built into the hinge, so you get the soundbar style right in front of you. It ensures that the speakers are facing you no matter which orientation you're using the laptop in. There's a quick toggle button that allows you to select 3 different modes: movies, music, and gaming. I usually select the movie mode because it does sound a little bit louder, but what's really impressive is that sometimes you can hear sounds coming from beside you. It feels like it's got surround sound. It is a Dolby audio device and you can fine-tune the audio with an equalizer in the Dolby app, but the surround sound, spatial audio kind of thing is something you really have to experience in person to understand it. I've never had that happen on a laptop before and it's very unique. The only thing I would say is the speakers could have a little bit more bass, but other than that, they are quite impressive. The keyboard and the trackpad are very nice to use. So I've got the 9i on the left and I've got the 7i on the right. When I type on the 9i, there's a very nice, subtle kind of softness feeling to the keys on the 9i. It's not a huge difference, but as soon as I go over to the 7i, the keys feel a little bit lighter and they don't quite have the feeling of quality as the 9i. There's definitely a noticeable difference from the 7i to the 9i. The keyboard just feels a little bit nicer on the 9i. Also, if you look at the keys on the 7i, you can see that they're flat, but when you look at the 9i, you can see that there's actually a curve to the keys. So the keys themselves are actually different. When you type on it, you'll see what I mean. It's addictive. I also just noticed that the 9i is actually thinner than the 7i. You can see the body's a little bit more rounded with that chrome bezel, and it is actually thinner, which is probably why it feels lighter than the 7i. The trackpad is smooth and large, and it's great to do the Windows gestures. The only complaint I have is that the top portion of the trackpad doesn't click in, but you can still tap to clip, so it's not a big deal. The quick access keys at the side are nice because you don't have to dig through multiple apps to access those settings. But the downside is that the eye care mode, as well as switching from performance to power save mode, are features that Windows itself already has. And when you hit those buttons, you're actually activating Lenovo's features in the Lenovo Vantage app. So you basically get these 2 layers of overlapping features. Speaking of the Vantage app, there are some really cool optimizations within that app that a lot of reviewers have not mentioned. Here we are in the Vantage app. If we select power, you can see a few different power options. We can select between performance or battery saver here. There's another thing called overnight battery charging. You see they show a graph. When you charge the battery overnight, it will actually hold it at 80%. Then it will predict as soon as you start using your laptop to top off that last 20%. This will extend the service life of your battery. Another very cool feature is under display. Remember, this laptop is an OLED display. What the OLED can do is actually dim certain portions of the screen to save power. So I actually enabled the Windows light mode on the taskbar, so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm gonna set the background dimmer to always on. Now you can see that Chrome is bright, but the file manager is dark. If I select the file manager, Chrome will darken. So depending on the app that's highlighted, the rest of the screen will actually become dark. If I right click, everything else becomes dark other than the right click menu. Normally how I like to use it is set the taskbar dimmer to 30 seconds and the background dimmer to 30 seconds and not to change the display brightness, and wait about 30 seconds. And there you go, you can see the file manager is bright, but the rest of the screen and the taskbar have dimmed. If I move the mouse, the background will brighten, but see the taskbar is still dim. If I move the mouse to the taskbar, then that brightens up as well. So it's intelligently changing the brightness around the screen to save power. That is a very cool feature and a great use of OLED technology. All Windows laptops now have this Copilot AI button. And as these AI features start rolling out more and more, they will become quite handy. Right now you can create AI images, get help with writing, and do more advanced information searches. The backlit keyboard is now automatic. It can detect the lighting situation and turn on and off as needed. Or you can manually set it to 2 different brightnesses. I set it to the auto feature right away and I haven't touched it ever since. You can do that by selecting function plus space to switch between the different modes. Now my unit has the Core Ultra 7 155H, which is the high performance version of the i7. Last year that was called the 1360P, and P stood for high performance, but now they've switched it to an H with the new Core Ultra series models. So technically this is a first generation chip of the new version of the i7, i5. Now they're called Ultra 7 and Ultra 5. They're a lot more efficient. They also have NPUs built in for those AI tasks. But the real star of the show is the built-in Intel graphics, which is double the performance of last year's model. While this is certainly not a gaming laptop, you can absolutely get away with some casual gaming in 720p and 1080p gaming. Here we are in Cyberpunk 2077. I've got Intel super sampling on, set to performance mode, textures are at high. Most of the settings are at medium or high, and ray tracing is off. Under video, I have it set to 1600 by 900, which I think is a pretty good resolution. Still looks great. So we got a minimum of 30 frames per second, a max of 50, averaging at 39. Definitely a very playable and enjoyable experience. AAA gaming with no dedicated graphics card is absolutely a reality in 2024. And remember, you can always stream games too. So this is Spider-Man Remastered playing on the laptop. I've got my PS5 controller paired up, and this is running off of my desktop. See, there's the game running on the desktop. It's stretched out because it's fitted to the screen of the laptop, but you can see they're playing simultaneously right now. And the nice thing about doing it this way is that now you take advantage of that OLED screen and its fantastic color accuracy, and you're using the hardware and power of your desktop. And the laptop is in power save mode, the fan is completely silent, it's running cool and quiet. You can also do this if you're away from home. Like I did this when I was in a hotel room and I was streaming games from my desktop, and actually worked exceptionally well. And I personally think this is an even better way to game on the laptop. Now, if gaming is your priority, you definitely want to pick up a laptop that's got a dedicated NVIDIA or AMD graphics. But for most casual users, the Intel integrated graphics have come a long way. I do have a full review on my Corsair One desktop on the channel, so definitely check that out if you're interested. The camera is great at 1440p. Here's the camera and microphone test on the Lenovo Yoga 9i. It's set to 1440p at 30 frames per second. I think it's more than good enough to do video calling and even some small recording on your laptop as well. I'm not much of a pen user when it comes to a laptop. I don't do any drawing on the laptop, but the pen does feel very well made. It also has a magnet clip where it attaches to the lid of the laptop, which is very convenient. And when you are in tense mode, there's a quick access menu to select a few different features using the pen, which can be quite handy for those that are going to use the pen often. Also, the port selection is great. On the left, we have 2 USB Type-C ports. Those are Thunderbolt ports, as well as they will both charge the laptop, and a USB Type-A. On the right side, another Type-C and a headphone jack, and that's the power button there. It also charges quite fast, and when you are charging, it's going to show you an orange LED. Once it's fully charged, the LED will turn white. But the laptop certainly is not perfect. So let's go through the downsides. While the body is nice, it's certainly a fingerprint magnet. The moment I first opened it, I could see my own fingerprints on the top case. The screen does seem a lot more resistant, which is great considering it is a touchscreen. Another small thing is it doesn't quite open perfectly with one finger. See, the bottom case kind of comes up a little bit, although it's getting a lot better the more that I'm using it. I think because it has that 360 hinge, they make the hinge a little bit more sturdy than normal. The weird thing is though, when I went to Best Buy, some of the models at Best Buy did open with one finger. I'm thinking as the hinge wears out over time, it may start to open with one finger correctly, but when it's new, it's quite stiff. While the port selection is good, it still doesn't have a full-size HDMI. So if you're going to use HDMI out, you will have to get a USB Type-C to HDMI cable. But the Yoga 7i does have a full-size HDMI port. So when you go up to the 9i, you're actually trading off a few things, and losing the HDMI port is one of those. The battery life is not bad, but it certainly could be better. Like most laptops, it's nowhere near the manufacturer's claims. I'm getting about 7 hours of actual usage with all the power saving features on. Now my last Yoga 7i, which was a 2022 model, it had the Intel i5-1235U chip, lasted about an hour or two longer, and that laptop was at 93% battery health. This one being at 100% battery health and only getting 7 hours is quite concerning as it gets older. I think the battery will decay a lot faster than the U version of the laptop. And if you're following the laptop industry right now, you must have heard of the new Snapdragon laptops. Very similar to how Apple has switched to the ARM-based chips with their M series models. Now, those are essentially mobile chips that have been designed for laptop use. They give you incredible battery life as well as faster performance in a lot of cases. But the downside is a lot of applications and games don't work on those ARM-based chips. Some won't work at all, and others you'll still be able to use, but through a translation layer, which can reduce your performance significantly. But at the time I'm filming this video, Intel has recently announced their new Core Ultra Series 2 chips, and they're making some pretty big claims, and there are some YouTubers who have already verified those things to be true, like 50% better battery life, faster graphics, but those Ultra Series 2 chips are not available in the 7i or the 9i yet. You can only find them in the Yoga Slim models, which don't feature a 360 hinge, and of course it's going to be a long time before those go on sale, you get any sort of a special deal. So if you want the latest processors with the Core Ultra Series 2 chips, you will have to trade off the 360 hinge and of course just pay the normal price. But Lenovo and Intel will still be shipping the Core Ultra Series 1 models in a lot of laptops, and they'll be sold alongside for quite a while. If you're looking for a great deal, you're most likely going to find something with a Core Ultra Series 1 chip, whether it's a U model or a H model. The Series 2 chips is a topic for another video. The laptop comes with a 65-watt charger, but it is a brick charger. I kind of wish it was a little bit smaller. Now, while the Core Ultra 7 155H is certainly fast, it's not all that much faster than last year's 1360p. And some benchmarks have shown it's actually a little bit slower in single core performance some of the cases, while being a little bit faster in multi-core performance. The real improvement is in efficiency and graphical performance. Also, the addition of the NPU definitely makes those AI tasks quicker. In some ways, it can be seen as a lateral move, and it's not better in all aspects as compared to last year's chip. Also, it is important to note that this is a first generation chip. Now, Microsoft is going to be branding some laptops as Copilot Plus laptops, and for laptops to meet that certification, they need 40 TOPS of performance or greater, which is total operations per second. This Core Ultra 7 does about 34 TOPS, so technically it's not a Copilot Plus model. You may want to wait it out a little bit and get a Core Ultra Series 2 model. Another very annoying thing, and this is common on a lot of Windows laptops, is the overlapping features. You've got Lenovo Vantage and Windows Update and the Intel Command Center all fighting each other for updates. I installed Intel Arc Control on my last Yoga 7i, which was a 2022 model, and I updated the graphics driver to the latest Intel Arc driver, and then Windows Update downgraded the driver back to an old version. So you have these conflicting apps, one's updating them, one's changing to another version and downgrading it, which can be very annoying for a non-technical user. You can disable hardware updates in Windows Update, and I did that, but it still rolled it back eventually. So with this one, I'm going to just leave it the way it comes out of the box and hope that doesn't happen again. This is just the nature of Windows laptops because Microsoft makes the OS, the hardware vendors add their own features, you get these additional layers and overlapping features, which can be very annoying. But I mean, that's also the big benefit of Windows laptops, and the reason why they are the dominant platform is because you have so much choice of hardware, but guaranteed compatibility of software across multiple devices. You can pick any number of Windows laptops and know that all your apps, all your games are going to work, assuming you have an x86 chip, of course. If you go with an ARM chip, well, that changes. So the worst thing about the Windows laptops is also the best thing about the Windows laptops. It's always a trade-off. Lastly, I do think the price is a little bit too high for what it is. It's a fantastic laptop, but you can get a very similar experience in the Yoga 7i for almost half the price. Now, I was actually planning on buying the 7i, but I found a really great deal on the 9i, so I grabbed it. But at full price, I wouldn't say it's worth the difference. So is the Yoga 9i a fantastic laptop? Yes. But if I'm going to pick between the Yoga 9i and the Yoga 7i, the one I think that most people should get is the Yoga 7i. I got my laptop for a great price. I really like it and I definitely plan on keeping it long term. But if both are at retail price, I would definitely pick the Yoga 7i with the Core Ultra 7 155U chip. That's going to be your ultra low power model, which will give you better battery life. If you absolutely need the better performance of the 155H chip, then go for the 9i. The 9i does have better speakers, a better screen, slightly bigger battery, but less battery life because it uses more power. The 9i does come with a sleeve, which to be honest, I didn't really like using because it felt so tight. I was worried that if a little grain of dust or sand gets stuck in there, it's going to scratch the laptop. So I ended up just buying another sleeve off of Amazon. I'm not going to use the sleeve that comes with it. The Yoga 9i does have a better webcam and it is noticeably lighter than the 7i. But despite all those benefits, I still don't think it's worth almost double the price. Once you're using the laptop, the experience is going to be more or less the same no matter which model you choose. Unless you really need the faster performance or you really like the better features, the 7i is going to be the better choice for most people when it comes to web browsing, document work, and regular everyday tasks. The 7i also has an HDMI port, longer battery life, and it costs less. A higher model product is not always better in every way. Sometimes there are trade-offs. Now, I'm also going to do a full review on the Yoga 7i, so subscribe if you want to see that. Check out the links in the description, and let me know if I missed anything that you wanted to see, and I'll definitely make a short covering that. Thanks and see you next time.